Welcome back to Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. I'm your host, Chad Everett Broshears, and modern dating is the subject today. We all experience interesting insights into our lives, other people's lives, and all kinds of things whenever we get on our social medias. And I got to tell you, it's an interesting subject. I see a lot of things, and you get a real good look into some aspects and elements of human nature just simply by getting into looking at what's going on social media. Glad to see you join there, Taylor. People do seem to spend a lot of time airing what's going on in their life, looking for a comment, like some sort of psychological counsel or something whenever they get online and they start talking about their relationship issues and enrolling people in their challenges. Often what I see, and even in the people that I work with, they complain about relationships not holding on, not lasting, not having the wherewithal that they'd like to see, whether their partners cheat on them or they just don't live up to certain expectations, or they have a fight and they're gone, whatever the issues are. And I constantly hear from people, why? Why is this happening? What is it that actually has this person leave? Or why is it that I'm not getting the rewarding relationships? You could say some of it has to do with the Hallmark ideas, or the Fabio novels or whatever, where people get this false impression of what a relationship's supposed to be like. They develop this narrative that relationships are supposed to have a certain type of experience. An outcome, if you will, or some sort of belief that it's different than it is, and where people aren't open to really putting in the effort, developing what they want, or they wait for the person to to show up that's going to fix their life, be the person that they want to date. And when you ask for accountability, well, what have you done to really work towards becoming what you want to date? How do you expect to draw people in if you're not willing to put in the effort yourself to develop? Well, what happens whenever you're in a relationship with somebody that they have a skill set and some sort of attribute you don't have in the relationship? You can easily start developing relationships of need versus want. And a relationship of want is one that you feel more satisfied in. Glad to see you, Andrea. One you feel more satisfied in. It's one where you may show up with, I'm happy you're here with me. Let me make you breakfast in bed, or let's go do this. Let's have some exploration together. That's more of the want versus the need. The need would be more of, my bills are coming due, and I'm so glad you're here. It has a lot that's involved in it. And most people seem to live in their little bubble of the idea how the relationship's supposed to be. But they don't really put a lot of work into themselves, and that's why you get a lot of those complaints. I see you're waving there, Andrea. Let me see here. Just wave back to you. There you go. I don't want to divert too far or digress too far. I'll give you the heads up that this is part of my commitment to getting back out there and just making sure that I'm doing something to try to, if nothing else, give a little insight and give a little more organization or order or something of value for people around me. I get asked regularly, especially in the nature of the work that I do. People ask about how to get their lives on track or how to do something in order to facilitate some sort of reward in their life. So, and I say that because I'm feeling a bit low energy at the moment, but as a commitment to the people that have asked for it and a commitment to myself, I insist that I get on and at least produce something. Now, as far as why we get a lot of wishy-washy relationships, we'll get into that. We have a different economy of relationships now. Our parents didn't have the economy we do. And what I mean by that is we have a lot of apps. We have a lot of video. They used to have to go to a certain location and get a video made. Of course, yeah, I absolutely agree with that, by the way, Andrea. And I'll get to that point in just a second. But as we continue to age, obviously technology changes as well. But back in the day, you had to go to a certain place and make a video of you. It was an awkward video. You probably still see some of the vintage films of it where people are like, oh yeah, I just want to meet somebody. And, it's just this some of the strangest things that you see. Yeah, oh yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Dating people out of need. Thanks again, Andrea. Appreciate that. Insight in, let's see, a second here. Sorry, it's not letting me do what I thought I could do there. But when you have options, it reduces the tolerance to disagreements. And it does seem that people are less interested in dealing with disagreements, and more quickly, they want to replace it faster. I have options. I can get out of this. I don't need to be here. I've got people sliding into my DMs on my Facebook account, or, I've got, I've got my dating apps that just take a second to reactivate, and I've got a whole bunch of people waiting in the message categories. I don't really need this. And people get addicted to the rush of the initial beginning of the relationship, the excitement that's there, and not really into the wherewithal, the follow through, the long term, the values of overcoming challenges. It's more like, just replace you, single serving concepts. And we do seem like there's quite a bit of that. Good to see you, Paul. Brett. Susie. All right. So with this, it's options definitely damage it. And people, when you air your relationship issues, as I posted earlier on my Facebook account about venting feels good, but it's not always necessarily a good thing for you, because the person that's listening to you vent may not hear you with a sincerity, but more looks for information for their own benefits. So they find out you're having a relationship challenge. All of a sudden, you've got, the hero slides into your DM. Or you just see a history of this stuff that follows along. Instagram, all the rest of that. As well as we seem to be validating ourselves more on our like count. How many followers we have. Whether or not we're able to be like an influencer of some type seems to kind of prop us up on our self-worth. And a lot of that does also offer more of this inflated sense of value, which is, in psychology, they look and they call it the grandiose sense of self, as part of the scoring system for falling into the narcissistic category. And there's points into becoming a clinical narcissist or just holding narcissistic value. So having a greater sense of yourself than you actually are is grandiose. That's part of the scale. That's one of the measurements. And we have right now, our social medias are supporting that. We're developing more of this inflated sense of ourselves. We also are only publishing typically the stuff that we want people to know. Now, if you have a bit more of a victim narrative, or you get a reward for being a victim, you're likely going to take it to the social media streets, if you will, and just put it out there. Give me my validation, make me feel better about myself, or whatever. It's like it's almost like it's not a pseudo celebrity, but it's like a minor celebrity, if you will. Like, I just want to feel good, so tell me I look good, tell me I'm pretty, or tell me I matter. And then that's one more person catering to the you matter factor, which doesn't mean that you don't matter, because you do. But if you're being manipulated off of that, and people do this. I mean, some people, they're doing this, they don't even know they're doing it. And then you have other people that intentionally know they're doing it. I watched a video of a girl that claims to be a TikTok influencer. This girl was having like a major meltdown. And the major meltdown was based solely off the fact that somebody else had more followers than her. And like, she was having like a I need therapy type breakdown. Falling apart. Oh, what does that tell you about the way that this stuff influences us? We get that instant satisfaction. Somebody likes me. Somebody's likes my idea. Somebody's validating me. And then you get that dopamine. You get that endorphin kick. Where you're like, hell yeah, somebody likes me. Somebody approves of me. Then the next thing you know, you start growing addicted to it. If you ever notice that sometimes it's hard to put your phone down, or hard not to check into your social medias. I absolutely agree, Susie. She wrote, many people just manipulate others for their own gain. They absolutely do, but there's also When you can feel somebody else's pain, it gives you a direct feedback. One, that you have the ability to cause pain, and the other is, are you related to that pain? Have you felt it yourself, or do you want to feel that yourself? And that's the empathy factor. And a lot of that stuff is reduced in our interactions because we're not being empathetic with each other. Being sympathetic, I get you where you're at. It's good. I understand. But empathetic would be like, I feel it. I can understand completely what you're going through. But if you miss those factors, you're more likely to just take advantage of people. I mean, and overall, we all are kind of, we're leveraging for advantages at times, depending on the situation. Some of it is for the least challenging or detrimental aspect, and some of it is for something much worse, more nefarious, if you will. It's just everybody's kind of their own place. But if all you're putting out is the good stuff, all you're putting out is the filtered version of yourself, then you're teaching people that you only experience life that way. So if they think your life is better and they're going through a pretty rough time, it's a pretty good chance they're going to try to slide up in your DMs. They're going to try to persuade you to see them as a suitable person in your life. So these all play roles in how we work on our own relationships. If you've got counsel coming from people that aren't even counselors, they're the people that are just waiting in the wings for you as you air out your issues on social media. There's a pretty good chance those people are just going to give you bad advice. You get people that give advice, by the way, in your life that aren't necessarily social media, but just in your life in general, that have an idea about a way a situation should have gone in their life, and they're going to try to puppeteer. They're going to tell you the hypothetical, but talk about it in such a conviction to make you think they really tried that out. Like, you know what? This is exactly how I'd handle this. And they're speaking in the hypothetical, but they could be like, trust me. Then if somebody says trust me, usually it gets my spider senses tingling, But they'll say things like, you know what? I've been through this. Well, they may have been through the heartache, but did they just really qualify the solution that they're about to offer you? Because if they have unresolved issues in a past argument, they may have played it out in their head a way that relationship or that argument should have gone, but it didn't because they didn't go that way. They're looking at it in hindsight, and they feel their argument is better in hindsight. And now they're going to try to play it out in your life because they're offering you advice. And you may consider, because of the way they speak with conviction, they're right. They did it. They were successful, because you don't know it's all hypothetical. So, and when you start trying somebody else's arguments out in your relationship to see if it gives you more of a reward, or possibly the leverage, or get your partner to see it from your way, which would be winning the argument in that sense, but not necessarily in a negative, I beat you, but just more of finally you heard me. You go from all types of different ideas in order to get that person to listen to you, So it's challenging to sit there and have somebody else's argument play out in your own relationship or situation, because there's a damn good chance that argument doesn't really work, but your partner may not consider that it's yours, or that they may not consider that it's somebody else making that argument. They may just think that it's yours and it's all sincere, it is absolute sincerity. And then that can leave a false impression on your partner. So like, I didn't realize that thing really upset that person so much, or that situation, or that thing I did, or that I didn't do, or whatever it is. And it's an inflated sense because you have those past arguments that never got satisfied, and it's finally going for the win. Other people playing a game in your relationship by offering advice, it can be dangerous too. And if you feel good from the conversation you had with them and you feel like you got a solid resolution, you very well might end up with a pretty upsetting situation, because you felt good walking out of the agreed conversation with your friend that just gave you, the advice. But then you feel bad when you have that conversation with your partner. Now you go into the operant conditioning, the reward, punishment versus pleasure. So the other person made you feel good. They felt like they understood you. And they start to seem like they're an opportunity for you because they get you. They seem like they get you because you had an agreed upon conversation without all of the negative emotion for each other, but possibly the negative emotion with the other person. then you get what you get out of that. You're like, oh, I've got an option here. It may not be the dating app. It may actually just be somebody else who's offering you options or some sort of insights or ways of arguing that disagreement. Oh, be careful with the advice you get. Oh, also be aware when you give advice. God, you don't know what the other person's going through. How many times has somebody told you something and then you told them back what you just heard them say? And you found out you didn't quite hear everything that they said, or you misinterpreted it. Now, giving advice that really isn't suitable for them is also dangerous. And it could also make you feel like, damn, why didn't you take my advice? It's more of like you really want to hear what's going on. So my preference whenever it comes to these types of disagreements in relationships is there's a difference between straw manning and steel manning. Straw manning in an argument is where you prop up a caricature, an idea that that's not 100% what the person thinks, but it's something that you can beat on. And the other person may agree, or the people that witness it would agree that you're beating on something of value, that you're doing the right thing. But the person that you're actually saying their argument is, or that you're arguing against, you're positioning their position. You've given them a false position. That's straw manning. To steel man it would be clarifying what they're saying. So in a disagreement, it's validate the totality of the disagreement. You didn't like that I didn't take the trash out, and that made you feel like I'm not contributing to the household, or that I don't care. You feel that I don't care about you because the trash wasn't taken out. And with that, it has you feel like I haven't really cared enough in the past about us. Yeah. And just to, for those that don't see Laura's comment on that, that is a very smart way to go about it. I would say if you're looking for relationship advice, you're better off, and not for Laura necessarily, but just overall, when you're looking for relationship advice, you might want to clarify first off if you just want to vent or if you really want their feedback, and then figure out whether or not that individual has the possibility of having a ulterior motive. And then seek out a counselor. It doesn't hurt to see a therapist. It's not a bad idea to actually have somebody that you speak with, if nothing else than once a month, to kind of go over your monthly challenges, whatever it is that is something that you would like to see a solution to or a resolution. So I would absolutely be an advocate for that. There are videos that I'm working on and working on getting some licensed counselors and psychologists on to go over with me more of the causation of mental illness. Prolonged exposure to stress that induces anxiety can start to create mental illness. And what we have in our society is a lot of people don't look at the cause. They just move away from the symptoms. They move away from the person that exhibits it. They seem unstable, untrustworthy in the sense of how they behave, possibly dangerous. So what I would suggest would definitely be seek out a therapist. Find somebody that you can talk to that is trained to talk to you about it, that might be able to actually help you overcome whatever it is that you're dealing with, versus airing it out and getting these pseudo-intellectuals or these agenda-driven people trying to persuade you to see it the way that they want you to see it. You never know what they're going to try to create for you. And you're also, think about what our parents had to go through, and did relationships seem to last longer from a traditional perspective? A lot of them have to work their way through things. They had a disagreement. They had to fight. It used to be you sleep on the couch. Now it's I'm going on my dating app and I'm going to spend 3 hours in the bathroom. Or whatever the hell it is that they're doing to get in touch with other people. Or go on social media and blast out their partner and tell everybody else with this assassination of character behavior. That person's crap. And you shouldn't like my partner. What does it say about you and your decision making when you do that? There's a lot of things that come out of that. So I plan on making more of these, and I do plan on doing Chat with Chad in a series in dating. These conversations always seem to go much further when there's more people involved that can give a lot of their insight, perspectives, and even take over the conversation at times to really bring something to the surface. As it stands, I'm sitting here in my office with Christian Bale from American Psycho in the background, and I'm talking to a camera. So it's not always the easiest conversation to have, and then reading what you guys are putting out is fantastic, but at the same time, it's not always easy either, because there's certain little things that we might miss in written language. So I'm going to go ahead and close up for the day, but I do want to say, if there's any questions or anything, please post it before I completely close out. Susie, I appreciate you finding it funny, but it is the case. I'm talking to myself in front of a camera. Well, with that, thank you so much for your time, for listening. Share this video with the person in your life you know this can help. We all are working on something. Sorry you missed most of it. It'll be on YouTube, Sarah. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I do have a question here. I'll address this real quick. So how do you protect yourself from manipulation? First off, you're identifying you're being manipulated. It's not always easy to identify it. People are really good at it, especially if they have a historical value on manipulating you or manipulating others. So realizing manipulation has taken place. Gaslighting is one of the worst forms of manipulation to identify, because it strips away your sense of self-worth and value. I agree completely, Susie. Learning more about narcissism is absolutely beneficial. And there's different types of narcissism. It's not just one, there's multiple. There's just a lot to look into when it comes to manipulation. But simple versions of manipulation is where you start seeing information as incongruent with statements, or actions and behaviors are incongruent with that. You can actually learn quite a bit about whether or not somebody is misleading you. Usually, manipulation's misleading. It has many different aspects to it. So, but yeah, as far as to add a little bit more, Sarah, if you'd like, sometime we can actually do one of these together. But I do want to say just one thing real quick with Susie's statement here. There are things like there's different classifications and ways of being referenced when it comes to the world of psychology for narcissism. Again, to remind everyone, I'm not a licensed therapist and I'm not a licensed psychologist. I've studied quite a bit and I like to share information, but I'm also not telling you, take my word for it completely. Please look into it as much as you can. Learning can be an absolute pleasure, especially when you share what you've learned. But as far as narcissism goes, there is the overt narcissist, which is the one that most people are familiar with, a person that usually doesn't stop talking about themselves and the grandiose elements. And there's covert narcissists, and those are the ones that usually show up more like a victim. So there are different ways, there are different types. Covert narcissists will show up like victims. There's always a villain. They come across softer, not as fire type like a overt narcissist. So there's multiple different concepts to it. There's also trait values, but you won't necessarily qualify as a full-on narcissist on a clinical sense. But you can have trait values, and then others will run around and blame or say that person is no. Yeah. Oh no, I agree completely, Brian. I'm going to address that in a second too. Thank you for contributing, by the way. That's excellent on that, and I'll get to that in just a second. I agree completely also, Susie. The covert narcissist is a little bit, they can be more dangerous because most people are disarmed to those individuals. They don't know how to identify them. But Brian did say when things don't add up, that is a sign, and it's absolutely true, especially when you're dealing with, now, there's 4 different things. They call it the dark triad, but there's actually kind of 4 different elements to it. There's the narcissist, there's a sociopath, psychopath, and there's someone who is Machiavellian, all of which they can be dangerous and, they can be challenging. Quite possibly the least dangerous of them are the Machiavellians. They're just more very self-interested, and they can be a little challenging. So, but overall, though, please look into those things by all means. There's plenty of videos to get into, as well as plenty of books, more literature, as well as we can go into some of those in the Chat with Chad series. So, but absolutely trust your gut, Brian. And if you do feel like something's going on, take a second. You can take a second to get on, take a knee, if you will. Meditate on it. Try to figure out a little bit more. Remove yourself as much as you can from the emotion to at least create some rational clarity, and then look for your attachment. If you have an attachment that they're going to be honest with you, there's a pretty good chance that you're willing to obfuscate your own honesty, and to dismiss it or accept something that is not really true, but it's because you have a desire or attachment that's creating a biasness. So just things to keep in mind. So I appreciate everyone contributing. I appreciate all of you guys checking in. And again, share this video with those in your life that you do feel that this video would benefit. Watch it again if you'd like. Do check out my YouTube channel, Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. I do the Chat with Chad series through that. And I thank you, Susie. I'll continue to try as best I can for putting things out there. It's just anything. My intentions with this entire series is not to try to showboat anything other than, if nothing else, create rational discourse, exploratory conversations, and the opportunity for something that breaks a pattern that we may feel like we're stuck in. If you're in the rut, this is where I would like to at least offer as a sanctuary of breaking the rut. And I'm not going to save anything or save anyone, but if nothing else, help you do it for yourself, and other people contributing to this is a big part of that. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in and for contributing. Again, check out my YouTube channel at Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. Subscribe to it, get the bell notification. You'll know whenever I post other things that aren't necessarily on my social media, Facebook, Instagram stuff, but also what I do when I go online for my different channels there that don't go directly to Facebook. So again, thank you guys so much. We're all in this together, so let's create something great. In the meantime, keep looking at the world in a critical way, and give yourself the love you want other people to give you. So